is the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Hello, Magsy. How are you?
I am sweating like a priest in court.
Some of those priests are dodgy, aren't they? Or do you mean he's a witness for like the prosecution and he's a good priest? It's just a very warm day.
No, definitely a priest that has felt up the choir boys. It's
What, the
roasting.
band?
It's muggy. The band, the choir boys.
Yeah, the band. Yeah, just Spike from the choir boys going to the vicar. Get off, man! I'm trying to sing a record here. I never had this trouble in the '90s, and I was on top of the pops. God damn it!
Well, I don't know in the 90s with Savile and Bruno
no,
Brooks.
then.
He may have done.
Bruno Brooks.
I don't know. It's the only other DJ that came to mind at the time. Not
Superstar.
outing Bruno Brooks as
say,
a potential nonce.
Is Bruno Brooks a wrong end?
1 minute and 24 in, and we're already. I'm outing Bruno Brooks as a nonce.
I think we should just declare right now that we have no evidence or even inkling or potential thoughts that Bruno Brooks could be a nonce. We want to make sure that's really clear now. You know, for the sake of radio techers who are broadcasting with the SJP World Media Network and the audio version, and Magsy and me ourselves, so we don't get fucking sued.
Whereas that Simon Mayo, he was definitely a nonce.
Oh, I know. I'm sat upstairs, obviously, where I normally do this show, and my wife is literally directly below me in the back room, working on a few things for her business, right? And I know right now she is watching this, cringing, just going, "Oh my god, shut up, move on." Yeah.
Let's
dear me.
move on then quickly.
Yes, indeed. Before we dive in to the show this week, I suppose not really wrestling related or anything like that, but it's literally just been brought to my attention that Olivia Newton-John has passed away. My sister, who is a massive Grease fan and always has been for as long as I can remember, messaged me about 5 minutes before we went live, and I think that's a bit of a shame, mate. I mean, it's not something that I personally adore, but it's always been that film and that soundtrack has always been a big part of my life. Whenever we go for a drink around my sister's, Grease songs always come on the stereo, and we always have a go at the karaoke when I'm drunk enough. And I obviously I do the girl bits, and
He's got chills.
that's it. My wife's a massive fan of Grease as well, and obviously hugely popular film, and it's a real shame. It is sad when these sort of people that are kind of iconic from my childhood, I guess, are no longer with us. Obviously, everyone's time comes, but it's still quite sad, isn't it, Magsy?
It absolutely is, and she always came across as one of the good celebrities, like someone who you could be kind of like proud of, I suppose. And yeah, I think Grease is a really good film. She's a massive story, and this, like you said, the music will live on for decades and decades to come. It's a big loss, and I just hope that family and friends are doing as well as can be expected during this time. And yeah, it's a big loss.
Yeah, it is. It's a real shame. So, no doubt we'll probably hear a Grease track or two on the audio version, now, just as it'll be fresh in my mind, my friend, as a little tribute to her and that film that so many people got so much enjoyment out of in their lives. So
Yeah.
There we go, mate. There we go. On that sad note, then, I suppose. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, a Radio Techers production, along with SJP World Media, blah, 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 blah. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the Wrestling Extreme to my low self-esteem, the November to Remember to my Shameful in April, and pretty much every other month of the year as well, if I'm being perfectly honest. A podcaster who openly admits that he prefers his man-on-man action to be hardcore and extreme at all times. The podfather himself, Lord Mags. It's bloody hot, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I look like and feel like I am greased up in baby oil, which would add to the fun of the man-on-man action, I suppose. But yeah, it's muggy again. Another muggy day.
And it's going to get warmer as well, mate. Apparently on Thursday down here, is it Thursday or Friday? It's going to hit like 34, 35.
34 degrees. We ain't seen that since the blaze of 1995.
Do we have a blaze in 95? I don't know. I'm trying to think now. The only weather that sticks out to me, like historical weather, is the floods of 2007, and then in like the mid 80s, there was like random mad snow, and there's pictures of me in like a full-on baby grow, but like a puffer baby grow. You know,
Okay.
like a outdoor jumper suit or whatever, just getting put in the
Like
snow.
a ski suit.
Yeah. And it sort of comes right up to there on me in the snow. Like, and obviously, I weren't this tall then, but you know what I mean.
Just I can imagine you in a 6 foot ski suit, waiting for the bus to work. Brilliant.
Or wearing one when I was that age, and the hood just coming over my face, like Kenny from South Park or something.
Amazing.
Shall we jump into the chat, Magsy, and see who has joined us this week?
Yes, we shall. Dan Griffin, it's no day. You mean what that mons?
He's getting closer. He's getting closer.
It feels like when you play Chinese whispers. So you start off with the actual sentence, and by the time it gets to Dan, it's absolute gobbledygook, but we absolutely love him for it. Scottish Danny in the chat, hello to you, sir. And then Sharon, as usual, comes in and corrects people with the actual catchphrase.
It's her show opening phrase. Her show opening.
Which a lot of people are trying to steal now.
It's naughty, isn't it?
She wants to get that patented, I think. We've got Cam in the chat. Hello, sir. Coming in from the beginning as well. Normally, he's someone who jumps in near the end where we get to talk about the Baywatch. And Dan Griffin. I mean, this is just us. Straight in with the diddling jokes. Start the show as we mean to go on.
I'm not proud of us at all.
I mean, even if we didn't do this podcast, I wouldn't be proud of us.
Nah.
Cameron, concerned while we've got mention of Choir Boys when he thought this was a Baywatch / wrestling podcast.
Fantastic rock and roll band, my friend. I'll send you a couple of links. Brilliant stuff.
And Scottish Dana, immediate nonce talk. This bodes well. Brew nonce Brooks. No, now Dan is continuing this. We at Chain Wrestling have said that we don't have any evidence that Bruno Brooks was a diddler. So, Dan, you're on your own with that one.
I mean, just so we're clear, I mean, touch wood.
I don't believe Simon Mayo was as well. To be fair.
Touch wood, just so everyone's aware. My internet at the moment is doing quite well. Again, touch wood. So if we do just suddenly get cut off, it's nothing to do with my internet this time. We've literally been cancelled.
Yeah, which is coming. It's definitely.
We all know it's coming.
Dan is saying that you're underselling your own network, and I believe you were. That all that yada 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 business.
I apologise. I should have done better there. My bad.
And then I loved how Sombasar was going to immediately cheer for the intro. He just turns it on. He's a professional. That's why.
That's it.
Absolute professional. Confirmed there by Cam Griffin. Dan says the snow weather would be bad. Oh no, the hot weather would be bad for cheese rolling. It'll just melt on the way down.
You just end up with like dots where it's bounced, wouldn't you? Melted into the almost like someone's thrown out big cheese slices like that, you know.
Brilliant. Charlie in the chat. Hello, how are you, Charlie? And then don't say touch wood when you are talking about nonsense. Jesus Christ. This is why we are like we are, because we appeal to this denomination of people. So Dan has influenced this show. We were a wrestling show at one time, and now we out people who may or may not be nonsense before we even mention the word wrestling. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is quite bad. And then follow it up by a tribute to a famous actress who's passed away and stuff. I mean, to be honest, 10 minutes on the clock. It's been quite a ride so far already this week.
I know. We've jam-packed a lot of content into that first 10 minutes. That's because we've got to stretch it out because we've got a 10-minute wrestling match to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't think that through when I put it forward. Did I? At all.
You absolute pillock.
Yeah. Do you know what's really interesting as well? My choice for my link in the chain this week. I've not looked how long that is either. Could be even shorter. Who knows? We'll find out at the end of the show.
Jesus wept. Brilliant.
Oh, there we go, mate. There we go. What have you been up to this week then, Mags?
Same old, but I do have some news, a couple
Okay.
of bits of news. First, I got a new tumble dryer this week.
Nice.
Now that wouldn't be normally news, but this tumble dryer I can control with my phone. It actually is hooked up to my Wi-Fi. It's the best thing ever. It's the absolute best thing ever. Because our washer and dryer in our conservatory where Lorraine will go for a smoke. So when she's out there, I'm secretly putting the dryer on. So it scares her to death, yeah. So that's been fun.
That sounds like the exact sort of wind-up I would pull as well. That'd be...
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely
Especially if you've
brilliant.
been watching a scary film.
Yeah, well, we haven't had a scary film since we got it, but yeah, that's been fun. And then second, and this is going to take the tone down as well. Today I had my first therapy session for my recent mental health collapse, I suppose. Been kind of like passed from pillar to post in terms of like the appointment being cancelled and then rescheduled. But yeah, first therapy session today. That was fun, intense, but yeah, making a lot of progress. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way it's going.
That was going to be my only question, really. You know, are you glad that this is the route you're taking now? Are you glad you're actually acting on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird to say, but I'm kind of happy I reached that point where I had the meltdown, because it shows that I clearly needed to talk about some issues, and that's like highlighted it not just for me but for the family, and to get on medication. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing. Really kind of helped me process a lot of the stuff going on in my head. Me and Lorraine, we talk a hell of a lot more about the issues that I go through and things like that. So yeah, it's been still a long way to go. Still kind of like a lot to plough through. But yeah, it's been really, really positive.
Good. Really glad to hear it, mate. Really glad to hear it. I mean,
Thank you.
Obviously, me and you speak away from the show and stuff, don't we? And you know, it's always been in the back of my mind with you. But it's funny because it's like I don't know. Even though I've gone through something similar myself, it's like when it happened with me, I kind of felt almost like I didn't want to talk about it. So I was always a bit concerned reaching out to you to say how's things, but at the same time, you're my friend. I wanted to reach out and say how's things. So it's almost like a catch-22 with what.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
That's how I viewed it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And I think I've been through that stage of not wanting to talk about it for so long, and kind of like doing whatever I could to distract myself from talking about the issues and the things I was going through, that I've gone past that stage now, and now I feel I need to talk about it. Not in the case of that I want to chew people's ears off and like bore them to death, but I feel that I'm at that stage where I know that sharing it and kind of getting like advice and help about it is going to be beneficial. So yeah, like I said, baby steps, but we are getting there.
That's awesome to hear, mate. That's awesome to hear.
Thank you
And
very much. I appreciate it.
I am going to take this opportunity to, I suppose, effectively chew people's ear off for a moment, if I may. On that topic, it's so easy for blokes to bury their head in the sand, and for blokes to just, you know, stiff up a lip, or, you know, get on with it, I'm a fella, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And, you know, the one that you hear quite often as well, isn't it? What have you got to be depressed about, or whatever? Do you know, all that sort of nonsense, you know? And that's kind of was a big stumbling block with regards to my issues. And I'm hugely grateful that my wife was there when I kind of went through it a little while back as well, and so on. But there are so many people who don't. do that. They carry on trying to fight. And I mean, the celebrities are the ones that everyone obviously knows. I mean, if there's somebody in down the road from me, people aren't going to know that person other than myself. But you look at some of the celebrities that have gone through these battles and not done well or not come out the other end. The one that sticks in my head, obviously, is Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, because it's the 5-year anniversary of his passing in the last couple of weeks, I believe. Now, I probably end up sounding like a little bit of a stuck record when it comes to this sort of thing. But that whole man up and suck it up and all that, I was 100% where my head was with that. Come on, get on with it, that sort of thing. And that really contributed to breaking me. And I was really lucky that I had people around me when I did end up that way. And I know from conversations me and you have had as well, Magsy, it's very similar for yourself in that scenario. So I suppose what I'm trying to get across here is, if there are anyone out there, and I'm talking primarily to the men, I'm talking to the fellas, I'm talking to the boys, but this applies to everybody. You know, if there's children listening, first of all, if there is children listening, Jesus Christ, your parents are failing you. Okay, you should not be listening to this. I know my kids are in the chat, so I find that funny. But any anxieties or whatever like that, talk. Okay, the same with women, the ladies, and all that. Any mental health problems, any anxieties, any worries, anything you just don't quite get, talk. But really, honestly, straight out to the men, don't listen to this whole man up, get on with it bullshit. That's how people get worse. That's how people have collapses. That's how people end up. Because it is ingrained into us, Mags, isn't it? I suppose, especially with people of our age, I think younger generations, it is, I don't want to say easier, but it's maybe a slightly different feeling about it potentially. But with the fellas, talk, speak to your partners, speak to your best mates. If you haven't seen your best mate for a while and you're wondering why, just reach out to him, say, you okay, pal? It's not, I know it's a condescending term, it's not gay or anything like that, how some people might use that term to mock, which is disgusting and they shouldn't do it. But this is, it's so important that we check on each other, and it's so important that we're there for each other. And it's so important you cut out the negativity. That's a massive step as well. But go and speak to someone, a parent, a sibling, your other half, your best mate, whatever. My DMs are always open. Just honestly, speak to someone. Okay, that's all I can say, Magsy, really.
I mean, my DMs are open, but I don't ever check them. So don't DM me, because I won't get it. But the sentiment is absolutely right, and to kind of piggyback off what Dan says here, for those who don't know, Paddy Pimblett is a MMA fighter, fights for the UFC. He's from Liverpool, and he recently had a fight. He's becoming a massive star in the UFC, and he recently had a fight, and his kind of interview after winning, he mentioned that in the build up to his fight, one of his best friends in Liverpool took their own life. So he had to kind of still get on with the fight, still had to get on with all the press. Didn't tell anybody about it until he won the fight, and he said that there's this stigma around men not talking, and as Dan's put in his comment, he said, I'd rather my mate cry my shoulder than go to his funeral. And it's absolutely right. And it's men's mental health has really took a lot of steps forward in the last 4 or 5 years, but there's still a hell of a long way to go. There's still a lot of kind of stigmas about men talking about their mental health, when it shouldn't be. It should be, you should be free and able to talk about what's making you feel low and depressed, because we should hold each other up. We should try and raise the rest of humanity, because we're only here for a short time, and nobody should be spending that riddled with anxiety and depression. So yeah, definitely reach out and talk to somebody. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. Shall we get on with the show then, Mags? Now we've gone all serious.
We shall. Let's line it up by mocking some terrible gimmicks or wrestling.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It always makes me chuckle when I hear Liv just go, no. It makes me laugh.
Cool.
It makes me laugh. Did you? I don't know if anyone's heard the first episode of Checking at Pal Palace yet either, but my girls actually recorded all the signatures for the SJP World Media Network are done by my wife, and we have a couple of similar bits of music underneath, like just to open each episode or each show or whatever. We thought it a nice touch with my wife and I hosting a podcast to get the girls to record exactly the same thing. So it's them doing that. And that is quite cool. It's quite funny when you listen to them do it. But if you listen to after the episode, similar to the Doctor Who pod, we add like the outtakes or the bits that I've cut out on there as well. And I've got a few seconds of the girls trying to record one simultaneously. But there's a slight time delay on the two microphones they're using. And it's just so funny when the one starts and the other one doesn't, and they start laughing at each other. It's awesome. So yeah, go check out that show. Let us know what you think if you've heard it as well. Me and Sharon are really keen on your thoughts. But yeah, have a little listen to my girls trying to record this signature. They did really well for themselves.
It sounds like our show, but when you have internet problems.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Maxie, what's going in the Hall of Lane this week, my friend?
So this week I'm putting in something that thankfully I kind of missed because I wasn't watching this particular company's wrestling when it happened. But I want to go back to 1999, WCW. Now, one thing I'll give Eric Bischoff a lot of credit for is he did really well in bringing a lot of mainstream attention to WCW. But he threw a lot of shit at the wall to make some stuff stick. So for every Dennis Rodman, there was a Jay Leno. For every Karl Malone, there was a Sturgis Rally. And one of the biggest misses was Master P and the No Limit Soldiers. Now, this was this kind of relationship between Master P and WCW was meant to be exactly that. It was meant to be getting mainstream attention for WCW, whilst Master P got to promote his hip hop / rap music. But what it involved was Master P being for people who don't know, Master P was a rapper. And he had like a hip hop. He had a group of hip hop, and I think he had his own record label called No Limit Records, so which got the name the No Limit Soldiers. But he was meant to head up a kind of faction of his rap groups, and then some WCW wrestlers. To basically have a storyline to help promote his music and then increase the mainstream popularity of WCW. But when he showed up on WCW, he didn't act like a face. Essentially, he made 2 appearances for WCW, and then in the second appearance, he and his group beat up Kurt Hennig, who was a heel, and they essentially bullied him. Kurt Hennig gave a gift of a cowboy hat to one of the members of the No Limit Soldiers. That they destroyed it and then slammed Kurt Hennig's face into a birthday cake. So they were booed by the crowd because this is heel tactics. And Master P said he was disappointed with the reaction, blamed it on racial attitudes of the fan base, when really it was WCW fans weren't rap fans. They were Southern, mainly Southern country music. So Master P refused to make any more appearances. But there was still a deal in place for the No Limit Soldiers. So going through some of the members, they had Rey Mysterio, they had Conan, BA, which was Brad Armstrong, Chase Tatum, 4x4, who I have no idea who that is, but the main one was a guy whose wrestling name was Swole. Now, we'll get back to him in a minute. Just put a pin in Swole for now.
Okay.
So yeah, going back to the No Limit Soldiers, they started a feud up with Kurt Hennig, and he created his own stable, the infamous West Texas Rednecks. They did a very infamous song, "Rap Is Crap," and going into this storyline, these were meant to be the heels. But because of Master P's actions and because of the country music versus rap music storyline, they ended up being the absolute faces. So the feud, it was wrapped up relatively quickly. The No Limit Soldiers kind of broke up, but the issue was that WCW had given out massive contracts to Swole. Swole was and let me pull up my file here. Swole was a guy called Randy Thornton. Like I said, he was the brother or the cousin of Master P. He wrestled in the early 90s for the AWA a couple of times. Then he wrestled in New Japan a couple of times. And then nothing else until this run with the No Limit Soldiers. Yeah, it was not good. His matches didn't fare well. Usually, he was teamed up with some older wrestlers who could do the bulk of the wrestling action, and then he'd get the tag and get the finish, or he would be with some wrestlers like Steven Regal who would take the loss for him. Finlay would take the loss for him. So really kind of established wrestlers jobbing for essentially a guy who had no business being there. And then the icing on the cake, and you can look this up on because the information is all public knowledge now. He was paid $350,000 for two months worth of work.
Oh my goodness!
So comparing that to some of the wages that the WCW talent was getting, Barry Darsow, friend of the show,
Of course, yeah.
in his 3-year stint between 1997 and 1999, he was only paid $347,000. Davey Boy Smith, huge star, was only paid $307,000. Kenny Chaos, not a massive star by any stretch of the imagination, but he did 5 years for WCW, got $312,000
In total for the 5 years.
for the full 5 years, and
Okay.
Swole got $350,000 for 2 months' work.
Why?
Dave Taylor, legend,
Yeah.
got 293. Dusty Rhodes in 96, 1998, and 1999 only got 272,000.
Oh my God.
Van Hammer, 259. Mark Awesome, 279, to someone who we'll be talking about later on. Norman Smiley, 273. The list goes on. The amount of big names that this guy was paid more than. Jim Neidhart, 224,000. La Parker, there for 6 years, $251,000 dollars. Then the kicker is they paid Master P 200,000 per appearance, so he made 2 appearances and got $400,000. So yeah, my entrance this week in the Hall of Fame is the ridiculous waste of money that was the No Limit Soldiers.
It's just insane, isn't it? I mean, there's so many different variables that go into why WCW went under. No one can just say one thing. I mean, I know some people go, "Oh, Vince Russo." That's not true. It weren't just Russo. Oh, Kevin Nash. It weren't just Kevin Nash. Oh, Nitro going to 3 hours. Thunder came. No, there's so many different factors that accumulated towards what happened. this is a big part, isn't it, of it, though?
Yeah.
Throwing that money away like that, it's just insane.
It's absolute madness. Just so much money. So much money. Ridiculous amounts.
Why? We did get, Barry Windham in a country band for a bit, though, didn't we? So that's a bonus.
We did. I mean, that's probably the highlight of this whole storyline, that we got the West Texas Rednecks.
How did it go? I like country music. I like country girls. Like that one, it?
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you not heard? You must have heard it, Magsy.
I try to forget it.
Oh, no. Barry Windham, Kurt Hennig, banging away on a country record. Fantastic stuff, mate.
Brilliant. Not
It's
as
not
bad
fantastic
as
at all.
yeah. It was definitely not as bad as the new the No Limit Soldiers. So yeah, that's my
No,
entrance.
this is true. No, very, very worthy entrant into the Hall of Fame, my friend. Very worthy indeed. I'm jumping across to, shall we say, the other channel, I guess, with regards to this. So it's funny, you picking WCW, I'm going WWE, which is a bit of a reversal, I guess, at times. But mine is from a few years later. And it's something that I think our friend Scottish Danny will be quite familiar with, because the time frame really slots into where I think this is kind of his era. So I imagine he's got some strong opinions about this in the chat. I want to go to the Great American Bash 2006, and I would like to put in to the Hall of Fame this week potentially the whole gimmick, but especially the very first Punjabi prison match.
Oof. Okay.
Now, there's a couple of different reasons that I would like to do this. One, first of all, it was shite. But two, it was just so ill-conceived as well. The original plan was apparently for it to look the way it did. It was handed to Vince McMahon and creative, and they kind of ran with the idea and changed things, and it didn't end up how the initial idea was originally pitched. So, shock horror, Vince McMahon changes things for the worst. Who'd have thought? But there we go. It's other factors around it as well. So the whole aspect of the Punjabi prison match was based around the Great Khali. He was quite prominent in WWE, especially on the SmackDown side at this time. He didn't even wrestle in the match, even though right up until showtime, an hour into the show, they're still saying he is going to be wrestling The Undertaker in the first Punjabi prison match. It was decided way, way earlier in the day that this was not going to happen. But there's hepatitis tests going on, which he passed eventually, but there's concerns over that and so on. So they had to switch him out for the big show. But they knew this was going to happen. But yeah, they still advertised it as Khali being in the Punjabi prison and so on, which I thought is a bit naughty. But there we go. So we had the Big Show and the Undertaker, two guys who are legends in the business, but not exactly the most mobile of individuals, I guess, especially when working alongside each other. So we ended up with this visual of this cage made of bamboo, which already sounds freaking ridiculous, doesn't it? Let's be honest. And then a second cage made of bamboo, which meant because the bars crisscrossed each other, the crowd couldn't see anything. So they were dead silent throughout the whole thing because they couldn't see what was going on at all. You then had two guys who were, again, as I said, not particularly mobile, not particularly quick on their feet at this point in their career when working against each other. So the match ended up being very punch, kick, which, again, didn't add to any potential excitement they could have got out of this gimmick. And then we come to the cage itself. Now, this very first one had spikes on the top of the cage that were angled down to make it look like you would cut yourself. And JBL is plugging the crap out of this over and over again. Like, he's never seen anything like it. This is incredible. I've been in cage matches that I walked away from and I was never the same. This is unbelievable. The first time any competitor goes near these, the Undertaker climbs up to the top rope. And he's trying to sell the fact that one of these spikes is a bit sharp, and he's trying to knock it out of his way and break it away and so on. As he's doing this, other ones are hitting him in the belly and the arm. And it just looks so crap and so lame. You've got the aspect of the doors in the first cage, that the referee, you signal to the referee, and the door opens, and it stays open for 60 seconds. And then it's locked, and it won't be open again. So for you to escape the first cage. You watch that happen. First of all, the doors don't slide properly, so they're getting stuck when they're trying to move them up and down. Okay. Secondly, when they shut them and they lock them with a padlock, because apparently that makes them completely indestructible. This padlock, as they're locking it, the whole cage is rickety and moving around. These guys are massive 6 foot plus, well, put 7 foot tall fellas, 300 plus pounds each. If they just wanted to, they could so simply just grab it and rag it off the hinges. It was the most ridiculous, crap, stupid match stipulation I've ever seen. I tried to rewatch it today for the purpose of the show. I couldn't get through it, Magsy. I turned it off and went downstairs. Now that says a lot, because I will watch pretty much any shit if it means researching for a podcast. I turned this off. It was that bad. So that was my entry into the Chain Wrestling Hall of Fame this week, is the terrible idea and execution of the Punjabi prison match.
Yeah, I am glad that was in my whole exodus from wrestling era. It reminds me of a giant game of Kaplunk mixed with a Wish version of an Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
With all the structural integrity of the bars that kept that RoboCop ripped off the shark cage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like I said, having two lumbering 7-footers in it did nothing. The camera worked because of the bamboo sticks. You could barely see what was going on. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, you're right. Good pick.
Absolutely shocking. It was terrible. It was terrible. Apparently, there was a conversation between the Big Show and the Undertaker that day. They went out and looked at the structure and were trying to decide what they could do in the match, and they both just walked away going, "Well, nothing. We can't do anything." Because they can't be on top of either of the cages because of the spikes, in theory, kayfabe. I mean, you look at, I suppose, trying to reinvent the wheel, potentially. The cage matches, it's as old as we can remember in wrestling. And so many great gimmicks have been used via the cage match and so on. Reinventing it, Hell in the Cell, some great moments. And there's stuff you can work with. There's the roof, there's the extra wide cage, there's all sorts. Next one, Elimination Chamber. There's the pods to jump off. Again, there's the different shaped cage. There's the metal flooring that meets the ring apron. This was just a case of, okay, we've got wrestlers who are good at this, this, and this. How can we take that away and just make everything shit? And I'll tell you what, they succeeded.
Yeah, they succeeded in what they aim to do. It just seems to be a case of, like you said, trying to reinvent something that didn't need reinventing. I get the whole wanting to be fresh and unique and never been done before. Yeah, there's a reason why it's never been done before, because it's terrible.
Yes, it is. It is. So there we go. Those are your entrants into this week's Hall of Lame. The No Limit Soldiers, the money wasted, and all that nonsense with WCW, and the Punjabi prison match, all the money wasted, and all that nonsense from WWE.
So pretty much the exact same.
Yeah, there we go, mate. There we go. Should we have a quick check on the chat, Magsy, before we go into our non-wrestling topic this week, which we have had a staggering amount of responses to?
Yes, we shall. So we'll start with Dan Griffin, going back to the talk of mental health, saying that his DMs are always open, being on both sides of the coin, so always happy to lend an ear. And he also then follows that up with, "It's not a Monday without Sam making a fart noise." Yeah.
Fair enough.
And Scottish Danny heard it as well. A bit mean, saying charisma vacuum Brad Armstrong. I mean, he was certainly no above average Mark Sanders, but it wasn't that bad. Ray Cash in the building. Hello, sir. How are you? Dan not happy with Ray Cash being here. Says he loves us because of racism. I assume he means the no limit stuff was because of racism. A lot of shock to the fact that Swole got 350 grand for 2 months' work. Ridiculous. I couldn't get over it when I saw the figures. How many Tank Abbotts can you get for that? You could get probably 11 Tank Abbots, I would say. Scottish Dan and Dan Griffin disagreeing whether Van Hammer deserved the money or not.
He did not.
He definitely did not. And Scottish Dan is WCW pissing away money. Shock, horror. He also mentions that there's a talk about the end of WCW on this week's episode of unbooking the Tankatora. So definitely go and check that out. And I'm sure Dan will be in the chat with his code for their 15% off beer.
Yeah.
Also, Dan says that there's a great episode of One Man's Meat on the Punjabi prison match, so definitely go and check that out. Then we have Scottish Danny said Dan and Rob talked about Kevin Nash and his damage to the company. Rob, he puts a lot of blame on WCW going under at the feet of Kevin Nash. But
there is a huge amount of blame to be put on Kevin Nash. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that there are other factors as well, of course. It wasn't just Nash, but he was a massive, massive part of it.
Absolutely he was. But he's still one of the coolest people in wrestling. So,
yeah.
If that costs us one of the biggest two companies in the world, then so be it.
What? No, not so be it. I'd rather he went back to being Oz or Vinny Vegas and we had WCW back. That's what you mean.
The great Oz. Scottish Danny saying JBL earned his money that night. Oh, yeah, he definitely over-egged the pudding. And he agrees with you that if it was a cruiserweight match, it would have had a lot more potential. Cameron kind of telegraphing what our picks for next week will be. Maybe we'll end up having to watch a Punjabi prison match. I bet I could scramble away from ECW to the Punjabi prison match pretty easily. So
yeah, Big Show was the ECW champion at the time, so there's your link.
Well, brilliant.
Shit. I wish I'd shot. Damn it.
And Dan Griffin said, is that the code you meant? Yeah, give us the code. Tell us what the code is. I can't remember it.
No, nor can I. Is it Taurus beers? I believe. Look at us shilling your stuff, mate. Look at that.
Yeah.
Eh?
And also, whilst we are shilling, go and check out RBF Luxuries because the amazing Sharon has made me a cup. And it's well good. They're at Pod Papa Mags. That's a Twitter handle that I don't use very much. Chain Wrestling. Yeah, so definitely go and check her goods out. She's really doing well to make a go of this luxurious malarkey. So yeah, go and show her a bit of love.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much great stuff she does. But honestly, every day she's got new products or she's made something new. And it blows me away how talented my wife is. It's got to a stage where I shouldn't be surprised anymore. But then she surprises me again with how excellent some of the stuff is and what she's doing and so on. So yeah, go and check it out. RBF Luxuries on Twitter, Facebook, and so on. And
the code is UTT Podcast 15 for 15% off at Tartarus. So we were close. .co.uk. I think Dan has put it in the chat, but because it's a website, it doesn't show up on our StreamYard.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Magsy, shall we get into our non-wrestling topic this week?
We shall, and this was a doozy.
It was.
This was actually decided mid-show as well last week.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad it was a doozy. I'm glad it is a big non-wrestling topic because our wrestling match is only about 11 minutes long. So we can balance it out quite well, I think. Our non-wrestling topic this week was basically, I suppose, to summarize it as briefly as possible, gaming, I guess. What games did you grow up playing that you loved? What games did you complete? What games do you like playing now? Any classic games you go back to? Potentially any games, computer games or so on that you hate, maybe. And it seems we have a lot of gamers in the CWF mags.
I'm so proud of each and every one of them.
Okay. There's going to be a lot of this now, just to pre-warn everybody, as we're going through. As standard with so many non-wrestling topics, I'm going to be going, what's that, Mags? But we start off with one that I do know
Sonic?
what it is.
What is Mario? Who's Mario then?
We start off with one that I am fully aware of what it is because it references a computer game or a computer that I I had growing up and I loved, and I'm fairly certain it's still in my mum's attic, and I got to dig it out. And that is from @pigsbladders on Twitter, and they are talking here about a Spectrum 48K, which is what I had. I loved it. And they say here, I'm showing my age now, but Bruce Lee on the Spectrum 48K. And what's worse is you can still play it online now. And he actually included a link on our Twitter. So that's great. People can go and dive on in and have a little go on that. But Spectrum 48K, mate, I loved that. All about that. Playing, the old cassettes, waiting for so long for it to load. And then you press a button, it crashes. You got to do it again. Just brilliant stuff.
I was never a Specky guy. I was a Amstrad.
Okay.
So I had the CPC 464, but it's still essentially the same. You had to load up the cassettes, and you'd see the coloured kind of border all flashing, and the game would take about 45 minutes to load, and then you'd play it for about 3 minutes, and then start the whole thing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Spectrum would go beep, beep, beep,
yep, same.
Like that. And it was a horrific noise. It really was. We had, I suppose there was 3 of them, wasn't there? There was the Commodore, the Amstrad, and the Spectrum that were all very similar. And I had the Spectrum, but one friend had a Commodore, the other friend had an Amstrad. So we kind of just used to go to each other's houses all the time. So it worked out really well for us.
Yeah, I used to go and get the 199 cassettes from W.H. Smith. Used to get a one a week, or try and get one a week, and I had hundreds of them. And then you get the games magazines, which you'd usually get like a demo disc and a demo cassette. And I remember there being a big war with the magazines where essentially they'd start putting more and more games on the cassettes because they wanted you to buy their magazine, so you could get hundreds and hundreds of games for next to nothing.
My uncle used to, because the Spectrum was originally my uncle's and it was sort of handed down to me. He used to go down the road to the newsagents or whatever it may well be, and you'd rent computer games, same as you'd rent a VHS tape or whatever. So we'd rent a Spectrum game, walk back up to my nan's house, do the old tape to tape and record
it. Brilliant.
And take it back. So I got a cassette off him, like a 90-minute audio cassette, and then the cassette player had like one of those little ticker tape counters on. And he'd say, like, reset the counter to 0 if you want to play, I don't know, Ghostbusters. It says on this little bit of card here, fast forward to 0426, and that's where the game Ghostbusters starts. And so I'd have, like, God knows how many games on this one cassette. It was fantastic.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but if you lost a bit of card, you were knackered, obviously. But there you go. Dan Griffin, I have somebody in the chat here, and he says, well, it's at Dan Griffin21 on Twitter, of course. He says here we go. Steve-O style thread incoming from me. Started on Sega Mega Drive and loved the Sonic games, even though to this day I've never completed one.
How dare you?
What's that?
Never completed a Sonic game? Ridiculous. I mean, Sonic 1 and 2 I can run through without losing a laugh. Wow, Dan, I'm disappointed there.
Why, without losing a life, really? Do you reckon you could do that now, or would you have to have a couple of practice runs?
I don't know if I'd be able to do it like straight off the bat, but yeah. With 1 or 2 goals, I'd be able to do it. Yeah.
Why? Okay. He says here, Italia 90 football was also mint. Games he hated were The Lion King and Aladdin.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. The Aladdin, the Lion King with the monkeys, that was horrific. They were brutal. Absolutely brutal. Amazing games. Amazing looking for the time, but brutal to play.
I can kind of remember Aladdin on the Mega Drive, and it being quite frustrating.
Yeah, the worst part of Aladdin, if I remember, was the carpet ride over the river of lava. That was brutal.
God, yeah. I remember that. I never had a Mega Drive, though, so where would I know that from?
I mean, it was on the Super Nintendo as well.
Oh, maybe that then. I don't know. Yeah, I remember that. Why? Okay. Dan continues. Graduated to the PS1 and loved WWF Warzone, the Crash Bandicoot series. Yeah. WWF SmackDown 1 and 2, FIFA 99, and Roll Cage. I'm not familiar with Roll Cage, but the rest of them I remember.
So if I remember rightly, Roll Cage was a racing game where your car could flip over.
Okay.
If I remember right, if I remember, Daniel, I'm sure Daniel corrected in the chat, but I think that was the game.
Yeah, let us know, Dan. Let us know in the chat. He says, to this day, though, his favorite game ever is Metal Gear Solid. I adore that
Yes.
game, as we used to stay up all night playing it, even though I was shit at it, Dan says here. Following on from that, WWF Attitude, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 4, Spider Man 2 on the PS2, Grand Theft Auto, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Skyrim, I think that says, Fallout
Okay.
4, Football Manager, Spider Man, God of War, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and so many more. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and also the Mass Effect series. Video games provide so much escapism and entertainment. I honestly don't know where I'd be without them. Keep an eye out for me possibly reviewing a Doctor Who game in a future episode of the Doctor Who pod. Yes, indeed. Not keep an eye out for him possibly doing it. He is doing that.
Yeah. So many great games that Dan mentioned there. So many that I love. I didn't really get into the Batman Arkham series. I've played one, and there was a part with the Riddler where he was making you do ridiculous races in the sewers, which pissed me off, so I didn't play that much. Skyrim, I've only ever played on VR. And I did 10 minutes of it, and it was not the game for me. Same with Fallout, not a game that I'm bothered about. Football Manager, yeah, all the way from back in the original Champ Manager days. That was my thing. I'm concerned he missed out Grand Theft Auto 4. I think.
That's oh no, you are right. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 3 and 5 he has here. Yeah, sorry, Magsy.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 4 is a classic. Going bowling with your cousin Roman, that's amazing. But yeah, he's racked off some really good games there.
Yeah, but our Liv's played Grand Theft Auto. She liked that a lot. I know it's probably not suitable for a child to be playing, like with some of the aspects
Definitely
of that
not.
game, but
Definitely not.
she enjoyed it. James, sorry, go on.
He's put Grand Theft Auto 4 was shit. How was Grand Theft Auto 4 shit? No, Dan, you say some really good things, and I agree with you, and then you say that, and it makes me angry.
See, I've got no point of reference to what any of these Grand Theft Auto games are. I'm aware of the series, but I've had a little drive around and stuff, but that's about it, really. So I can't compare,
Cool.
Max. Yeah.
Cool.
James, you dick. James at 80s and 90s Wrestling on Twitter. He says here he hasn't had a console since the PS2, but the first was the NES. Used to love War Rumble on the Super Nintendo. Had an unhealthy relationship with Brian Lara Cricket when I was unemployed. Croc and Crash Bandicoot, were class 2. We'll have to get the NES out of the loft and see if it still works. Yeah, great. I had a Nintendo, the old block, the NES, the cartridge that had Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers on the same cartridge,
Yeah, I don't remember as a kid having a NES. I had one as an adult. My first console was the Master System, the ye old Sega console.
Yeah.
So I tended to stick with Sega and then moved on to Sony. But it mentions Brian Lara Cricket. That game was the dog's bollocks. Absolutely amazing game. I was never a massive Croc fan, and Crash Bandicoot was something I could take or leave. But yeah, definitely go and get your NES out of the loft. They're worth a fortune now.
Yeah, I had one for a long time. Mario 3 as well. Mario 2 was all right, but Mario 3 I loved that game.
Well, Mario 2 wasn't a Mario game though. It was
no, it was different.
A repackaged Doki Doki Panic.
A repackaged what?
So it was a game called Doki Doki Panic, and the artwork was basically taken off and replaced with Mario characters. It was not actually a Mario game.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh. Doki Panic.
Doki Doki, yeah. And that was because they actually did a Mario 2, which was very much like the original Mario, but much harder. And Nintendo of Japan thought that would be too hard for Western players. So
Okay.
that's when they reskinned Doki Doki Panic because it was an easier game.
Ah, I learn so every day, Mags, don't you? Hey, there we go. At Pig's Bladders, continuing with the love for the ZX Spectrum, 1942. He says here, and that was a good game, 1942, flying the plane around and stuff. I enjoyed that. Who Dares Wins 2, and Chucky Egg. Chucky Egg was an Amstrad, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Kind of like Dizzy.
that's right, Dizzy. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I might have got that confused there. It might have been Dizzy I was thinking of, but yeah. At Pig Spiders continues. I broke too many controllers playing Daley Thompson's Decathlon Hyper Sports. That's the one you got to sort of keep hammering the buttons to run faster, isn't it? Like, you know, that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
See, I hate those sort of games.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, they were good because you could break a world record. But yeah, looking back, it was very cheaply done. A lot of these games, they just tended to get a celebrity, stick the name on it, and then churn out a terrible, terrible game.
Yeah. At Scottish Juggalo on Twitter, our good friend Danny, he says, these are my absolute favourite games I enjoyed playing growing up. GTA Vice City, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, I think that's going to be, isn't it? HCTP, is that right?
Yep.
Duke Nukem and Streets of Rage. Oh, Streets of Rage. What a game that was on the Mega Drive. Fantastic.
Yeah. Amazing game. Absolutely. All three of the Mega Drive ones. Absolutely love them. And another game that I can play all the way through. I don't know if I can do it without dying once, but certainly like without continuing. Yeah, I played that game to death.
We used to spend so much time playing Streets of Rage, and like I don't know if it'd be like FIFA 96 or 97 or something like that on my mate's Mega Drive. Just get a couple of quid, buy a big bottle of pop and a load of sweets, and just stay up all night playing these games. You know,
I hated the early FIFAs, the like asymmetric running where the pitch
almost
was at an
diagonal
angle.
pitch. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't fucking stand that.
No.
But you could get an ambulance to come on, and you could run away from the referee as well if
Get
he tried
sent
to
off,
send
yeah.
you off.
Good Cop, Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast at Good Bad Wrestle on Twitter. He sent us an image here, a picture, and it's Manic Miner, I believe, and it's totally worth a 6-minute wait whilst the cassette loaded. So
Is that Manic Miner? Is that
no? That's another tweet they sent as well, Maxie. I think I've got them in the wrong order here. But yeah, Manic Miner that's the one there. Just went past him. Bit further down. There we go. Manic Miner, I believe that one there is. I loved that game. Manic Miner 2, Jet Set Willy was the one I had. That was fantastic as well. But yeah, Graham also sent in at MGB Graham. Can't beat gameplay like this. And it's that little purple one there. I'm not 100% sure what that is. I did ask what the game was, and he said he'll let the chat figure it out on Monday. So there's a little bit of work for it. Now, what is that?
It looks a little bit like Bubble Bobble. But
Okay.
I don't think it is. I can't place it, but it does look like Bubble Bobble.
I've got no. This works really, really well. I
don't recognise the character, but I'm sure Graham will let us know.
Yeah. This works fantastically well for the audio version. I'm not going to sit here and describe it. If you want to see it, it's on Twitter.
Steve-O. MGB Graham.
Yes, exactly. At Total Steve-O on Twitter, he says, when the Mega Drive and the SNES were out, my parents couldn't afford it, so had to go to a friend's house to play Sonic, Mortal Kombat, Mario, and Mario Kart. All we could afford was the Master System, had 2 games, the inbuilt Alex the Kid, and on cartridge Indiana Jones. Oh, Alex Kidd, that was... That
game was amazing.
And it used to punch, didn't he? And his big hand would come out.
He used to play rock, paper, scissors as well.
Yeah. See, my sister had a Master System, and with the built-in, Alex Kidd game. And, yeah, so good, man. So good. Steve continues. But it was when the PS1 came out, I got to experiencing games I could buy. Die Hard Trilogy, I spent forever on, especially Die Hard 2 and 3. I loved strategy games, Command and Conquer, Red Alert, Syndicate Wars, Warhammer, Dark Omen, and spent literally hours strategizing. Now, I'm not familiar with any of those apart from Command and Conquer. That rings a bell.
Yeah, well, all those games are along the similar lines as like real-time strategy where you have to control an army. Not my favourite kind of games. If I were to get into any games like that, it'd probably be cannon fodder, just because of the comedy. But yeah, they were big games. I can't deny that.
Okay. He was a huge fan also of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. Ironically, not playing though, but watching my friend play. See, that's something that I find quite alien because my girls, not so much now, they've grown up a little bit, but they would, my lad as well, I suppose, or all of my kids would spend so long watching other people play computer games on YouTube. I don't
I
get that.
mean, Mrs. Mags, when I think I've told the story before about me booking a week off work to play Metal Gear Solid 4 when that first came out. But Mrs. Mags will happily sit and watch me play through a game like that because for her it's like watching a film. Because
Okay.
she gets to watch, she'll watch like all the cutscenes, and then I'll be doing like the gameplay, and then it comes to another cutscene, and she's like, yeah, it's like a film, and she really enjoys the story aspect of it. So
Okay, I'll tell you what then. I stand corrected because my lad was playing a game. This is going back a while now. This is going back probably a year or two, maybe. He was playing a game and I walked in, literally just to step into his room to, I don't know, just get some washing up or kick his ass by not doing his homework or something, I don't know. And I ended up sitting down and watching a good half hour of this because it was like you said, and the graphics were incredible. But obviously, this is now as opposed to what we're talking about with regards to games growing up and being a bit older, I suppose.
yeah, so I can see the appeal of watching other people play. I sometimes will watch speedruns of games, so like people who try and get through a game as fast as humanly possible.
Okay.
Mainly to see how easy it was to break the games that I've had so much enjoyment out of, like how a game that maybe it's took me 50 hours to complete, someone can complete it in 20 minutes, and it's like wow, it really blows your mind.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. Steve-O continues. WWF Warzone, Attitude, and SmackDowns were in my life, despite not actually watching the wrestling back then. I'm fairly certain I had at WWF Attitude. Was that an N64 game?
No,
No.
it
Okay,
wasn't.
I did not have that then. I say me. I didn't have an N64. My little brother did, and I used to play the wrestling game with him.
So I think the N64 ones, and someone will correct me, were
No
the
Mercy.
yeah, No Mercy, and
Yeah.
I think the Raw games. Maybe I think WCW Royal Rumble was a Nintendo one. Yeah, these were. This was when WWF games were specific to certain consoles, so you didn't get
Okay.
the SmackDown games on a different console. You didn't get Warzone and Attitude. So I think Warzone was the first real acclaimed WWF game on the PlayStation. Attitude was the follow up. Yeah, it was. They were great games. Really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I'll comment quickly on Danny's comment in the chat there because I will say it again now. Steve-O continues. He says here, Steve-O continues, needs to be a shirt, Danny says.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It absolutely does.
Another batch will be released soon. I have no doubt about that. All GTAs were phenomenal, Steve-O says. Once again, hours spent just driving around listening to the stations. When I discovered Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, I'm assuming that is WAW, that took over my life.
No, it's
Any
World at
minute
War.
I had World at War, sorry. Any minute I had spare just to play that constantly. See, Grand Theft Auto, people talk to me about the soundtracks on that all the time. Was it proper music they licensed?
A lot of it, but then there was also so essentially the music was because Grand Theft Auto's a lot of the gameplay is based in cars. It was radio stations in cars.
Okay.
So you could skip to radio station and they'd have like a chat show on one of 80s music, one of up to date music, all that kind of thing, and you would skip to whichever channel, whichever radio station you wanted. There was like a Spanish one. Yeah, it was. A lot of it was licensed music, but then a lot that Rockstar made up themselves. But the best part for me were the adverts. They they were so hilarious. You definitely need to go on YouTube and look up the GTA radio station adverts because they are brilliant.
I'll check that out, man. Yeah, no worries. Okay, I'll have a
You
look at
definitely won't. That's an absolute
Probably.
lie.
That's my homework for next week, that I will not do. Steve says as well, was only up until recently Call of Duty World War II, I think that must be. I realised I'm too busy to play games. Although saying that, I did get Call of Duty Cold War. Apologies, getting a bit tongue-tied there. Played when I could be bothered, just the odd hour a day. I do remember being a pro Evo nut, created all my friends and played Master League mode. See, I Pro Evo I never got on with. I didn't play a lot of football games, or I didn't play a lot of games at all, really. But Pro Evo I never got on with, really.
So for me, Pro Evo, there was a time where that absolutely beat FIFA hands down. The issue with it was that they didn't have the players' names for licenses. So R9 Ronaldo, I think it was called Naraldo or something like that.
Right. Ryan
I mean-
Giggs would be Brian.
Brian Griggs.
Yeah.
But you could edit it. But for gameplay, for a good 3 or 4 years, Pro Evo absolutely slapped FIFA. But then FIFA did. I think it was Cameron mentions it in the chat. FIFA Street 2. It was around that time when they released the street games that FIFA basically stepped up to the plate and became the go-to football game. And now they kind of rest on the laurels, and it's just like a yearly update with not much added to the graphics. But Pro Evo was quality for a long time.
Okay, well, that's interesting. What do we have here? Nowadays, Ryan Giggs is called the defendant. Dan Griffin says in the chat. Yes, he is indeed. Games I couldn't beat, Steve-O says here. In Syndicate Wars, there was a specific part me and my friends just couldn't get through. He says, I totally forgot Doom. That was a scary atmospheric game. Music was incredible. I remember Doom. Again, not playing it, but I remember maybe my little brother playing it, potentially.
And the music in that is definitely would be right down Steve O's wheelhouse. Very kind of rock heavy music. First person shooting games like that, not something I've really got on with. I don't kind of like when you can only see the hands of your character or just the gun. I like to see the whole of the character. But they are popular, I will admit.
Yeah. Okay. Steve-O continues. I'll finish on arcade games. 3 spring to mind: Sunset Riders, Metal Slug, and Time Crisis. Loved that game. Was amazing when they bought it out for the PS1 with the gun too. Used to go to the pier and watch a guy known as the Time Crisis Man. 16 years later, turned out he worked with a friend of mine. His name was Ken. That's not as cool as Time Crisis Man, is it?
No. I would have left that a little bit out.
Yeah. Steve-O selling Time Crisis Man short there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Became good mates. I reminded him of this time he'd play every day when it was 50p a go. He fondly remembered he was a god in my eyes back then. Good old Ken. Well done, Ken.
And it's the typical never meet your heroes then, because he found out the Time Crisis man's name was Ken. But that's actually a cool little story. I don't remember Sunset Riders. Metal Slug, if I remember, that was kind of like a run and gun style game, but Time Crisis was brilliant.
Yeah.
Where you had the gun and you had to like aim away from the screen to reload, and you had to hide behind obstacles and stuff like that. Yeah, really good game.
Yeah, so I have played that in the arcade. I remember that.
There's a similar game which I think is better, House of the Dead, which is a similar kind of theme but with zombies rather than criminals.
Okay. So those sort of shooter games I play when we go on holiday. Like we've just been away, haven't we, a couple of weeks back? And you go in the arcades, that's quite good. Or you sit in the cars. Like there's a Jurassic Park when we're sat in like the whole game is like a Jeep, and you sit in it, and you've got the guns, and that's quite cool.
Yeah, They are, and you can get like the motorbike ones where you have to like tilt side to side.
Yeah. I I used to have to hold on to Charlie because she was so little, so she'd turn quickly and slide straight off.
Oh, that's cute.
Connor Knows Soccer at Connor Knows Footy on Twitter. He says here, I don't play many video games anymore. When I do play, I mostly play sports games where I take a crap team and completely rebuild them and get them to Champions League on FIFA 21. I completely rebuilt Swansea City and they won both the Champions League and the Premier League. Currently, I'm on my last save on FIFA 22, rebuilding Arsenal, and I'm just qualified for the Champions League. Okay, so that's like a management game, but you play it at the same time then?
Yeah, pretty much. I do a similar thing when every year with Football Manager when that comes out. I've done that with the old FIFAs. I've not been a massive player of the recent FIFAs. I used to do kind of like rebuilds on probably the best football game ever released, Sensible World of Soccer.
Oh, yeah. On the Atari. Amiga.
For me, it was the Amiga, yeah.
Amiga, yeah.
That game still hasn't, for me, been beaten in terms of the fun you can have with a football game. So damn good.
Yeah, that was excellent. That keyboard with like massive arse on it, wasn't it? The Amiga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Cam at CamGriff92. He says, not had a console in years because of the little ones and work. Favorites from yesteryear: Mega Drive, Sonic or Terminator, PS1, Spyro, Roll Cage, Medal of Honor. Never mentioned for that Roll Cage game there, actually. PS1, Spyro, Roll Cage, Medal of Honor. PS2, FIFA and Gran Turismo. PS3, Resistance, Fall of Man, and GTA Vice City. So many more, but they're the top picks, I think.
Yep. Gran Turismo is a game I'm currently playing now. Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 there. But yeah, some great games. Terminator, if I remember, that used to be like properly difficult. Spyro, another game that I wasn't particularly bothered about. Medal of Honor for a first-person shooter, that was really, really good. Resistance, I had the games. They were kind of like a first-person shooter, but with aliens. But I didn't play a lot of them. But Vice City, I played that game to death. I've recently bought the remastered versions, and they've got a lot of grief because of the quite buggy. But yeah, the nostalgia is still there with them games.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
I had a Terminator game. I'm fairly certain I had a Terminator game for the Spectrum. It must have been the Spectrum. And when you'd load it up, it would do the whole beep, beep, and all that sort of nonsense. But then it wouldn't just, go to a screen and say, press this button to start or whatever. It would cut to the game and blaring out of because it wasn't the music didn't come through the TV, did it? The music came through the actual computer itself.
Yeah.
It would be the Terminator theme music. Blare, but it was... Yeah. But like, 8-bit graphics sounding, that really sort of, robotic and that. But it was so loud. It used to scare the piss out of me every single time. Not cool.
Not cool at all.
No. 5 Nerds Go at 5 Nerds Go on Twitter. He says, I had a Sega Mega Drive and finished Sonic when I was 5. Oh, Dan, everyone's mugging you off now, mate, isn't they?
No, Dan, you absolute wet wap. if a 5-year-old Matt from 5 Nerds can beat Sonic, why can you not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've beaten Sonic, but then I didn't play lots of games, so...
Well, try it.
Yeah, okay. That's not going to happen.
No. I didn't think it was.
He continues, I then got a PlayStation and used to play FIFA and V-Rally. Now spend my days doing F1 esports things badly, he says here. Still have a fondness for Abe's Underworld and Zero Tolerance. Abe's Underworld, that was a little blue dude, wasn't it?
Green.
Green, was it really? Okay, perhaps my TV was broke.
He farted and burped to control
robots.
That's it.
Yeah. I thought Abe was blue.
No, he definitely was green.
What am I thinking of then? I might be thinking of the little blue guys from that Eiffel 65 video, to be fair.
Oh, you might be thinking of like the old Trapdoor cartoon.
Nah. I'm probably thinking of Eiffel 65. Anyway.
That well-known video game, Eiffel 65.
Yeah. Well, no, I just, in my head, just picture the little blue man, because it's computer graphics, isn't it?
But it was never blue, it was green.
No, in the Eiffel 65 video, he was blue, wasn't he? Because it was all
he
about
was
being
definitely
blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole song
And
was
having
about being blue.
And having a blue car and a blue house.
Yeah.
And a
But
blue
that's-
girlfriend, which is sounds wrong.
Yeah, maybe. You know, obviously that's not Abe's underworld, but he was blue, but Abe was green. Yes?
Yes.
I'm really glad we cleared that up.
We're doing really well at bulking this episode out before we spend 4 or 5 minutes talking about wrestling.
Indeed. It's 5 years ago. It also says, I have Xbox Games Pass as Dusk Falls is excellent. Now, I'm not familiar with Dusk Falls.
No, I'm not. I'm not an Xbot. I'm a Sony pony, and I've actually just upgraded to the Sony version of Xbox Game Pass, and it's amazing. There are hundreds and hundreds of classic games to go through. I doubt I'll buy another game for at least a year playing through these games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So it's well worth the money then.
I think so. I think you pay £100 for the year, and there's about 300 games that you can go through,
Right.
all ranging all the way back from the PS1 era, all the way up to like modern day games, and they add more and more every month. Well worth it. Well worth it.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't know if we've had anything from Millwall Chris, but he replied very, very quickly and said, "This is my jam." But I don't think he actually put anything in.
Okay. Was there a game called This Is My Jam?
Don't think so. Don't think
Did
so.
it
mate.
reply? So, yeah, Millwall Chris, let us know, what is your jam?
He's not even in the chat tonight, mate. He's gone out for a meal with his missus.
Look at that. Just it
What a
annoys me.
letdown. What a
It
letdown.
annoys me how selfish they are. How dare
Yeah.
you go out and treat his missus to a slap-up meal? Should be
She'd
in
much
here.
rather stay at home and look at us anyway, surely.
I mean, also Chris. I mean, it's no competition.
Bag of chips from the chippy, bottle of Lambrini, put YouTube on, watch us boys.
Lamborghini, Jesus.
That's a great evening for your wife, Chris. All right,
It is,
trust
yeah.
me. Save yourself a few quid, mate.
She would appreciate that way more.
Yeah, I reckon, mate. I reckon. Finally, we have Mr. Matt Willis via WhatsApp, Magsy. This is the last one we have, and
Well,
he
are you-
says,
So poor Rob is not getting a
fuck,
mention.
I missed Rob. Oh, Rob, I'm sorry, mate. I haven't got that in front of me, Mags. You have to read that out because I can't read that off the screen. It's far too small.
So Rob has put favourite Switch he still plays today, with the youngest being at least 20 years old now. Civilization 1 and 2, Colonization, Railway Tycoon, Vikings, Field of Conquest, Masters of Orion, Sensible Soccer 96-97, another banger. I do prefer Sensible World, and then Star Trek Armada 1 and 2. So, yeah, it looks like Rob has certainly got a type of game he likes, very kind of like real-time strategy and kind of like time management and resource management style games. But, yeah, Sensi Soccer, you can't beat it. You really can't beat it.
Which one came first then? The one Rob's referring to, and World was the sequel?
So, Sensi Soccer 1 came out first, and then I think 96-97 was kind of like an add-on to the original.
Okay.
And then Sensible World of Soccer was like a whole game on its own. I think they added like a management section and transfers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. That's a great list. Great shape. Have I missed anyone else, Mags?
I don't think you have, but you haven't mentioned Matt Willis's yet.
No, but that's on WhatsApp, so. Yeah. So I'll jump
It'll
on
be
that.
a
then,
long
shall I?
while. It'll be a long while.
It's not that long, actually. It's not that long. He says here, "Ooh, gaming is always a win for me. Best game when I was growing up was called Booty. That's a bit different, isn't it? A pirate platformer. I've never heard of that. And he says it's on the Spectrum as well. I don't remember that.
I've never heard of it, but
No.
Matt
gonna
Willis
say-
enjoying a game called Booty. Just the joke
I was about to say-
writes itself.
I was about to say I'm going to look that up, but I probably don't want to be typing that into Google, do I? Sonic and Knuckles on the Mega Drive, both amazing in very different ways. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Favorite nowadays, Metal Gear Solid series. Absolutely adore it, as well as the F1 series of games. I know Magsy loves a bit of F1.
I do.
Just going
That's
to
right.
nod. Yeah, that's it, is it?
Well, yeah, it was right. I mean, there's
Okay.
not really much more to add. I had F1 97 for PlayStation 1 and then kind of went off the boil on then I got the recent one, F1 2021, and it was amazing. Yeah, really
Right,
kind of
okay.
fell back in love with it. I haven't picked up the very latest one, the F1 22 yet, but I'm kind of holding off because I've heard there's a lot of problems with it. So I'll wait till those problems have been ironed out, I think. And I've got plenty to go at as of now.
But that's something else as well, isn't it? With modern games, they can do that. If there's problems, if it's not right, they can sort it out. With like download packs or whatever the kids call them.
Most games nowadays they have to meet such a rigid release schedule that they are released broken, and there's usually like a first day patch that you have to download to fix those issues straight away. But yeah, nowadays you will get games that they're more content is added to over a long period of time. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is still getting content added to this day, and that game is nearly 10 years old now since it was first released, and you still get like updates every so often. So that's a good thing, I think, about modern gaming, and the amount of games from back in our day that were released broken because they hadn't been play tested properly, and there was nothing you could do about it. There was no way of patching that game and fixing it. So you just end up with a game that you couldn't finish whatsoever. Jesus Christ, Sharon, this is a family show.
WhatsApped me some booty. Oh, let's have a quick look. Ah, no, it's just a computer game.
Oh,
What a letdown, Sharon. What a letdown. There we go. Is that showing up on the screen okay?
I've never heard of it.
No, nor me. Oh, I'm intrigued. Okay. All right. I do have a bit more from Matt Willis, actually. Bear with me a sec. He says, I don't think I hate any games in particular. So that's a negative on that side of things from me, apart from anything with fucking rats in them. Terrifying to play those. I'm extremely proud of having 100% completed every Sonic game on the Mega Drive in the days you couldn't save it as well. So there we go.
Mm-hmm. That's good. A good skill to have. Dan.
Yeah. Leave Dan alone. Bloody hell. Magsy, what about yourself, mate? What about yourself?
Yeah, a lot of my favourite games have been mentioned. Streets of Rage, absolutely adore that series. Metal Gear, the amount of hours I put into that series are just ridiculous. The Tomb Raider games, especially the original Tomb Raider games, I thought they was absolutely outstanding. The Uncharted games, another series that hasn't got that much love. Assassin's Creed, a great series of games. They get a lot of grief for maybe not being the best quality, especially the late ones. But I've always enjoyed playing those. But yeah, I think a lot of the ones that I love have already been brought up. Well, Ratchet and Clank, the Ratchet and Clank series. If I were to recommend any platforming style game, that is the gold standard. Ratchet and Clank are the very best platform games.
Okay. See, for me, it's really straightforward. growing up, I had the Spectrum. So I had Manic Miner 2, Jet Set Willy. Jetpack, that was a bloody brilliant game. Jetpack was amazing. And then Mario 3 and Street Fighter 2 were probably my 2 favorite games of all time, just because I spent so many hours playing them. Golden Axe as well.
Oh, Golden
Bloody
Axe.
love Golden Axe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I bet you was always the dwarf as well.
No.
You weren't the dwarf. He was the best character.
Was he? Really?
Who did you go with then? The
I
woman?
went the big dude, didn't I?
Yeah, but his sword was only really small.
Well, that's a peril when you take too many steroids, isn't it?
I suppose. I suppose it is. Brilliant.
And you used to get like that bonus round, didn't you? When those they look like lemmings. So that was another game, lemmings. I used to like lemmings, but they look like lemmings and they come on, you just kick the fuck out of them. They drop these bottles of potion.
Well, they'd steal the ones that you left at your campsite. I mean, who first of all leaves a big hunk of meat on a bone at the side of a fire whilst you're asleep? That's ridiculous. But yeah, they come and steal them, and you just whoop the piss out of them and get it back. Yeah,
That's it. Final Fight was an arcade game I played a lot. Me and my best friend put loads of money into Fight. It's basically a Streets of Rage rip-off. And we put loads of money into Final Fight, and then we actually completed it on the arcade in the leisure centre. But we didn't realise that by the time we'd finished it, there was a crowd behind us watching. And when we were like 12 or some shit, I don't know. But when we finished it, everyone cheered and we felt like rock stars. Looking back, there's probably only about 4 or 5 kids. But at the time, it felt like there was hundreds there.
yeah. Another couple of games that I should mention. I had a Dreamcast as well. That was an amazing console. I had a game on there called Fighting Force, a game on there called G Police, which was absolutely amazing. But I had Crazy Taxi. What a game Crazy Taxi is. So damn good. But then The Simpsons went and one-upped it with Simpsons Road Rage, which is just essentially Crazy Taxi in the Simpsons world. That was amazing. And then they did Hit and Run. Simpsons Hit and Run, maybe one of the best games ever made. So damn good, that game.
I remember Crazy Taxi, but more so because I remember looking at the box, because I think one of my friends had it, or my brother had it maybe. But I don't remember actually playing it itself. But yeah, the Simpsons games, the Road Rage one and so on, I remember that as well, good stuff. Good stuff. Loads of people getting in touch for this week's non-wrestling topic. And we thank you all so much. Magsy, we better dive into the chat quick and have a little quick scan through before we talk a bit of wrestling, because obviously the wrestling is a short segment this week because it's a short match. But I also noticed that we're clocking in at nearly an hour and a half already. So
we've got plenty of time then. So let's have a look at Dan trying to explain why he wasn't able to complete Sonic. He says because he lacks the part of the brain that allows him to complete them. Never been able to. So have you gone back like recently, Dan, and tried to play him? So you should let us know. And he says we also need a klaxon for when you remember something. I personally think he doesn't remember the things. He just says, "Oh yeah," and then hopes the conversation ends so he doesn't have to keep talking about it.
You'll notice that's when I go, I remember that. Oh, yeah. Steve-O continues.
Dan and Cameron both agree that that Roll Cage was the game that I thought I remember, where you could drive upside down and stuff like that. Dan says he put 250 hours into Skyrim. Jesus, the only game I've really put that much into is probably Metal Gear Solid 4, just to collect all that, the badges. Then we've got Dan saying Grand Theft Auto 4 is the red-headed stepchild of the series. Ridiculous. Surely that's Grand Theft Auto 2. That was not a good game.
No idea.
Scotty Stanley saying he still plays Streets of Rage on his phone. Dan saying Flappy Bird. Brilliant. Scotty Stanley saying Vice City trumps all. I don't agree with that. I think San Andreas is the peak of Grand Theft Auto, especially that era of Grand Theft Auto. Dan Griffin agrees that House of the Dead was a banging arcade game. Yeah, it was so damn good. And then when you said there was a lot of love for Roll Cage, I don't think you clocked that that Dan and Cameron both mentioned
yeah.
it, may have played it together, which, yeah, it's a bit weird. Dan says, does anyone remember Michael Owen's World League Soccer 1999? I vaguely remember it. I don't remember buying it, mainly because Michael Owen was a boring cunt. So who's going to buy a Michael Owen? Michael Owen fronted game, not me.
Fair enough.
Cam says locking the butler in the freezer was my skill on Tomb Raider, and there's apparently rumours that the original Tomb Raiders are maybe getting remastered. So if you can lock that butler in the freezer in 4K, that would be absolutely amazing.
Brilliant.
Dan Griffin saying that playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now, and it's amazing. I believe that's one of the games on the PlayStation Premium that I've got. They've got pretty much all of the Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed games. So I'm gonna try that. I think Valhalla's the only one I've not completed, so I need to definitely try that one. Sharon mentions Dizzy. Dan mentions a game called Time Splitters. That again, I think that was on the Dreamcast and PlayStation. I don't remember playing it. I know a lot of people have got a lot of love for it, but I don't remember having that game. Simpsons Road Rage, Hit and Run, all flooding back to it. Yeah, absolutely great games. Dan said he has attempted to complete them as an adult and failed. That's just shockingly bad. And anyone with any form of games past play Stray. So yeah, Stray was one of the big games for, I think, the August release on PlayStation Premium. So essentially, you play a game as a cat, a stray cat, and do. Have you seen any?
Dan Griffin was talking to me about it the other day when we were recording the Doctor Who pod, and he said he's a ginger cat, and it reminds him of Lemmy because he can fall off stuff and all this sort of stuff. So he sent me a couple of clips. So,
well, a lot of people on have been modding the game, so you can put your own cat in it. You can literally like change that cat to your own cat. So I've not played it yet, but I'm definitely gonna have a go at that pretty soon. And yeah, and he said it's the one with Lemmy in. So yeah, that's the chat all caught up with.
Did we see this one, Maggie, from my good lady, giving a shout out to Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Mario Kart were her faves, Sharon says. Now, Mario Kart is a game that I think is absolutely fantastic because you can play it yourself and it's great, but it's also something you have a few mates around, a few drinks or whatever. Just a big sort of everyone joins in game as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great on the SNES. Brilliant on the GameCube, Double Dash. That was absolutely amazing. On the Wii, it was really good. But Mario Kart 8 on the Switch, it is amazing. So much content in it. Pretty much all the tracks that they've ever been in a Mario game. Millions of cars, loads and loads of characters. Yeah, Mario Kart is amazing. Street Fighter, I had the Mega Drive version, the Special Champion Edition, where you had to buy a 6-button controller to play it. Not a massive fan of the Super Nintendo versions, but I did like the PSP version. I think that was called Street Fighter Zero, Street Fighter Alpha, something like that.
Okay.
That was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like Street Fighter myself. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So there we go then. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat and on Twitter for their involvement, and WhatsApp as well, I guess, for their involvement with our non-wrestling topic this week. It is awesome. We seem to say it all the time, but it amazes us. It shouldn't amaze us anymore, really, but it still does, that everyone is so willing to just get involved. And as we say all the time, if it isn't for you, this show does not exist. So thank you so much for all of your input this week. Maxie, we better actually get on and talk a bit of wrestling, haven't we? Because we are a wrestling podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Or at least we will be for the next 10 minutes. So the winner of this week's poll is a match from the ECW event November to Remember from 1999, and it's for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. between the current champ, well, not current champion, the champion at that time, Mike Awesome, and I suppose regular dance partner in a way. They have played plenty of matches, didn't they, throughout their ECW years?
Yeah,
Masato Tanaka.
I think if you were to give somebody the role of Mark Awesome's career rival, I think it would be Masato Tanaka. They had a hell of a lot of bouts all over the world against each other, and so much great chemistry. I think these two did so well together. Yeah, so good pick by you. A worthy winner.
Yeah, I remember seeing they did the reboot, didn't they? Like the one night stand sort of reunion show, and this match was redone on there. And
Yeah.
I remember watching and thinking, this is insane, the stuff these guys are doing to each other. It blew my mind. So seeing the older stuff back, again, it's amazing because obviously they're much younger, and we were aware that Tanaka I think he had some knee issues, didn't he, in his later career and so on. And Mike Awesome, obviously, he's no longer with us, but he had health issues as well. So seeing them that little tiny bit younger and how they could go, honestly, what was it, 12 and a half minutes, 11 minutes, whatever he said it was. But this is bloody incredible, isn't it?
It's shocking how much content they got into those 12 minutes. The pace does not let up at whatsoever. And for me, it's almost like a hybrid of so many different wrestling styles. Obviously, you've got big beefy blokes, which is very much the older kind of the golden generation of WF style. But then you've got the hardcore kind of 90s ECW style. But then you've also got the Japanese style with Masato Tanaka, that kind of hard-hitting, technical. And then you've got Mark Awesome, who at 6'7", the best part of 300 pounds, the dude flies like a cruiserweight. So this match has something for pretty much everyone, all crammed into a bite-sized quarter of an hour of wrestling.
Yeah, it's insane when you see Mike Awesome doing the stuff he does. Again, because you start actually the size of the guy, and he's got no right to be able to move how he could move, and it just makes you realise how ridiculous WCW were when they got hold of him, and they dropped the ball on him. I mean, you entered one of his gimmicks into the Hall of Fame not too long ago, didn't you? It just went so bad. This guy should have been. I mean, ECW, people will argue, was the third biggest company at one stage, and it had this following, whatever. It wasn't on the same level as WCW or WWE. I don't care how many people try and spin it in different ways, and you hear Conrad Thompson sometimes talk about this TV rating or this pay-per-view buy rate at this particular time. It was nowhere near the same level. When Mike Awesome went to WCW, or potentially if he could have got a chance to go to WWE, this guy should have been the top guy. This guy should have been the world champion in one of the big companies, shouldn't he?
Absolutely agree. His WCW run is one of the biggest wastes of potential for that company. For a company who wasted a hell of a lot of wrestling potential. That guy should have come in kind of on the same level as the likes of Goldberg. He could have been a main eventer from day one and then been a main eventer for the next 10 years. He had the look, he had the charisma, he had the moveset. Yeah, he had everything. And it just sometimes goes to show that you can have all these attributes in wrestling, but the one thing you do need is the boss to push you. And unfortunately, it didn't happen for him.
No, very true. This whole match or part of the show starts with videos of Tanaka and Awesome getting ready, I guess. So Tanaka's running on a treadmill, shouts a lot of things in Japanese. We get no subtitles, no no translation, which is fantastic. But you see straight away he is absolutely caked in scars, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you then see Mark Awesome doing the rope muscle pull up thing with his.
That's exactly what it's called, Magsy. Yeah, that's what it says on the bag when you buy
it. Resistance bands or whatever they're called. The guy's carved out of absolute granite. I mean, he's got the mullet parting in the back, business in front style haircut, and then he's got a judge with him, assuming it's his manager, who is a bit cringy, linking the whole storyline to being in a courtroom and things like that. But when Mark talks, you can't help but just listen, because he's quite soft spoken, but his words have a hell of a lot of meaning. And they go through the whole story of him and Masato having this long rivalry, and Tanaka always having Mark's number. Mark not being able to get the job done at all in singles competition. Joey Styles mentioned that he does have a pin over Masato, but that was in a three-way dance. So there's always that kind of a chip on Mark's shoulder about not being able to beat Tanaka. So when Tanaka challenged him for the title, this is how we got here.
Yeah, and we get the entrances with some dodgy dubbed ropey theme for Tanaka. Whatever he came out to, they didn't allow him to use. We got a comment in the chat there from Scottish Danny saying, how great was Mike Awesome's ECW theme? Now, I'm not sure what we hear on this pay-per-view was actually his proper theme. It may well have been, because it sounded written for him, because certain lyrics.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
But there was also a time when he used a Nirvana record, an Anthrax record, and so on. So, and I know the Anthrax record sounded quite similar to this one, so I don't know if it had been tampered,
edited.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong. I'm just literally guessing, but yeah. We start off so quickly though, and I suppose we've got no option to, because they haven't got masses of time on the pay-per-view, have they? And we end up, a couple of forearms and so on that we start off with. But then Mike Awesome just runs up the ropes right at the beginning. Or I say run, that's not accurate. When I say run up the ropes, I think of Kurt Angle going step by step. This guy jumps onto the ropes in the corner. It's insane.
Very much like Pat McAfee. Did recently. Yeah, that what the guy can do, it absolutely beggars belief. I mean, he should be stuck to the ground. Guys of his size never leave the feet. And there's a comment made, I think again by Joey Styles, when he says, people of his size don't leave their feet, brother. Obviously hinting at Hogan. The guy is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, the chemistry between him and Tanaka, it just oozes through this match. Then those two know how to work together. It's just it's just poetry in motion.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We get a moment as well where Tanaka hits a springboard clothesline coming off the one set of ropes across to the other, and then he comes off the top rope to the outside as well. And this is all within the first 90 seconds, 2 minutes, Maxie, maybe?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's just like they've gone from 0 to 100 miles an hour, like that. It's just boom, off they go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, like I said, they pack so much wrestling into this very short period. Wrestlers talk about maximizing your minutes. This is the epitome of that.
Yeah, without a doubt. We get the obligatory ECW chairs quite early on as well.
Jesus, the chair shots that they take, ridiculous. There's one that Mark hits Tanaka when he's on his knees, and he waffles him with that chair, absolutely waffles him, and then he gets his payback when Tanaka ducks under a chair shot of Mark's, takes the chair off him, clocks him with it, throws the chair at him. Mark catches it, and then gets hit with the roaring elbow. Jesus wept these guys.
Yeah, They're proper laying it in, aren't they? A moment that I really enjoyed as well, in the middle of all this carnage and chairs flying around and I suppose massive feathers like Mike Awesome flying around, was a moment where Tanaka, it almost looks like he's going for a Lou Fez press, or he's doing something anyway.
Yeah.
And Mike Awesome just catches him. And my initial thought was, oh, Jesus, a bloody bear hug.
Bear hug.
Because you know how I feel about that particular spot, especially in more modern times. And Tanaka is obviously a shorter guy than Awesome, so his legs are not touching the floor. He's got him in this bear hug kind of position. And he just turns it into an overhead suplex with what looks like zero effort, almost deadlifting Tanaka over his own head and suplexing the guy. That was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this is a Tanaka he must be touching 300 pounds himself. He's just absolutely made out of muscle and scar tissue. So the logistics of having somebody who Mark Awesome is essentially cradling like a baby with his legs wrapped around him, to have that power to throw Tanaka over his shoulder. I mean, we all know wrestling is a dance between the two people in the ring, and normally with a move like that, you would rely on the wrestler who's being suplexed to help with the rotation, to help with like the momentum. Mark doesn't need any of that. He just grips hold of Tanaka like a big baby and just lobs him over his own shoulders with very minimal effort. It's absolutely astounding what this guy can do.
Yeah, it's incredible. Speaking of astounding what he can do, we end up back out fighting around the crowd again, don't we? And over into the crowd itself. And Mike Awesome, he hits a springboard off the top rope over the crowd barrier into the audience to land on Tanaka. And again, this guy is huge, but he's just flying through the air like he's, I don't know, Rey Mysterio or bloody Ray Phoenix or some crap. It's ridiculous, Mags.
It's mental, absolutely mental. How these two didn't kill each other is beyond me. Because even when they were fighting at the ringside and slamming each other into the guardrails, they were still waffling each other with chair shots and they were just mental. And then when we get the action back in the ring, Tanaka gets hit with a clothesline, and I've always thought that JBL is one of the best clotheslines ever. With the clothesline from L, you can see the effort he puts in. Mark Awesome folds Tanaka in half with a clothesline to the point where he nearly stands straight back up. He's been hit that hard. Just brutal action.
What about the chair shot as well? There was the couple, wasn't there? Did he come off? I think the first one was off the top rope, wasn't he? He came off the top rope of the chair, hit Tanaka, but he didn't. He hasn't. We're not condoning this because now it's a different time in '99 to what we know now. Obviously, with the damage to people's brains and the issues it can cause taking chair shots this way. However, you can't change what's happened already. So just viewing what we see, that one chair shot, he's got his hands down by his side, and he takes that chair shot from the top rope, full force on the noggin, and just doesn't move, completely just rides through it and stares back at him before getting clocked again. It's just, oh my goodness.
It's mental. And then we see tornado DDT from the ropes onto the chairs. And there is no faking this. These are not gimmick chairs. These chairs have been just destroyed by these two blokes' heads. Yeah, just absolutely mental. We see, I think Mark does an Alabama slam at one time, which you look at Mark and you think, I am not taking an Alabama slam from him. And he just tries to put Tanaka through the ring. He hits him with that much force. I think he then goes for the power bomb. He sets up a table with the judge. We charge for a power bomb through the table that gets fought off, and then we see, I think there's a German suplex by Tanaka. Eventually the table does come into play. We do get that sit out power bomb through it. Man, just crazy spots. Crazy
Cuts
spots.
his arse, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah.
He cuts his arse on the powerbomb, the sit-out powerbomb on the outside. And I got flashbacks then to, I think it was Bob Holly, who there was that kind of trim on the outside of the table, the sort of like, you know, holds the chipboard in or whatever, came
Yeah.
loose and sliced Bob Holly's back, and it was pissing blood. I kind of got though, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as that, of course, but I kind of got that sort of vibe from
That
it.
vibe.
Of like, yeah.
It's what happens though when you're using foreign objects. Sometimes things like that happen.
Yeah. We get a superplex, you know, all the way up high with this giant monster of a man. Well, two giant monsters of men going through a table there as well. It's just so much happening in such a short period of time. You don't get a chance to catch your breath. But it's not, in my opinion anyway, it's not like you see certain matches now where so much happens and it's bang, 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 and there's no selling and it's too quick. And it's just, you know, stunts for stunts' sake. This, they do give you a moment to breathe here and there to soak in what's happening, but at the same time they cram so much in, you can't look away because you miss something.
Yeah, exactly. I think we see a couple of diamond dust as well from Tanaka. But what the thing that kind of makes this match stand out for me is you can see how the moves were taking the toll on the two guys, because they would go for multiple pins and we get pretty quick kickouts. But as the match went on, those kickouts got later and later and later. Both guys were trying their best to hit their finishing moves. I think Joey Styles mentions that Tanaka has a trifecta of finishing moves that he can end a match with, and Mark Awesome is powering through all these finishing moves and still being able to kick out. Basically, neither of them wanted to give up in this fight. They just were putting their all bodies on the line for this ECW World Title.
It kind of brings us to the finish then, doesn't it, I suppose? And I thought the finish was going to come momentarily before it actually did, Mags. Because we get a moment where Mike Awesome hits a crazy German suplex on Tanaka, and he basically lands on his head, doesn't he? But he rolls through and almost no-sells this, gets walloped with a clothesline, and then Mike Awesome hits a frog splash, a bloody frog splash, Mike, off the top rope.
A bloody good frog splash as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking, that's it then, isn't it? Surely this guy's just been walloped, kicked all over the place, dropped on his head, and now he's had this massive man jump on him. And he gets his shoulder up at the last moment. It's like, oh my God, they're carrying on. And then we get an Awesome bomb off the top for
From
the win.
the top.
It's
Again,
just, oh my word.
You're talking what ring posts, say 5 foot high. Then Mark Awesome, 6 foot odd. So you're looking at like maybe the best part of 12 feet in the air to be Awesome bombed. Yeah, brutal, absolutely brutal. But that was the end, and Mark Awesome finally gets that one-on-one victory against his nemesis, Masato Tanaka.
Yeah. Really, to me, fantastically enjoyable 12 minutes or whatever. Out of 10, Magsy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, from what I remember, I don't think that this was quite as good as the one night stand match, and I don't think it was as good as the matches that they'd had at Heat Wave 98. But it was still really, really good. It certainly didn't outstay its welcome. There was a hell of a lot of good wrestling in that very short period of time. And like I said at the beginning, you got a real mix of wrestling styles. You had technical wrestling, you had the hardcore chair swinging style, you had the half-flying. I mean, you're talking about two guys who should not be half-flying wrestlers doing half-flying wrestling. So this is a really, really good match. We've definitely watched better, but we've certainly watched some matches that are way, way worse than this. So I'm very happy to give this an 8.
Okay, I'm a smidge lower. I've got 7.5 and then amazing written underneath it. It's brilliant, and I can't really add much more to what you said there, Magsy, other than to say, if you've not seen Tanaka versus Awesome matches, this is a good place to start, because if it's not for you, it's less than a quarter of an hour long. But trust me, it's worth looking at. Not Heat Wave, sorry. November to Remember, 1999. Masato Tanaka versus Mike Awesome. Go and check it out. It is well worth those few minutes of your life. It is a really, really hard-hitting, excellent contest.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So then, Mags, where to next week?
I mean, there's a couple of obvious routes we could go down. Later on in this show, we see the ECW TV title defended. One thing that we didn't touch on in our talk about the match is the fact that the world title match is essentially in the middle of the card. That was a little bit of a bugbear. But Rob Van Dam is the current ECW TV champion at this time. So there's the link there. We could perhaps go to him winning the Money in the Bank. But then when I looked at that was another short match. So I thought, yeah, we'll give that one a miss. So I actually wanted to look around what the competition were doing around this time.
Okay.
So November, November to Remember was on the 7th of November. Then the weekend after we had a WWF pay-per-view. And then the weekend after that we had, I think it was WCW Mayhem. So in that 3 weeks, all the big players had their pay-per-views. So looking at the card for Mayhem, nothing really stood out to me. So I thought, let's have a look at the Survivor Series, 1999 Survivor Series. So one match did stick out to me, and perhaps not for its quality, but just more for the importance, I suppose, of the match. I want to go back and watch a match for the Intercontinental title from Survivor Series 1999. Chris Jericho challenging current champion and female Chyna.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we've seen Chyna way back in, I think, the audio only days, potentially. Wrestling.
In the Good
Jeff
Housekeeping.
Jarrett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Good Housekeeping match.
And obviously, we've seen quite a few bits and bobs from Jericho, but from different eras. But I don't think we've really hit much 99 Jericho, have we?
Yeah, and this was Jericho pretty new into, had the whole kind of storyline where him and Chyna were core champions. So yeah, it'd be interesting to touch upon that.
Yeah, we can cover the whole story with the belt and how it works, and great stuff. Yeah, so Survivor Series 1999 Intercontinental title between Chris Jericho and Chyna. Yeah, that'd be. I mean, that makes really interesting conversation, especially with Chyna being involved in the men's title picture as well. There's a lot there to get into, I think. My link is much more straightforward, and that's because I was fascinated by what I saw for this week's show, so I wanted to stay with ECW. So I'm going to use the pay-per-view as the link. So this is November to Remember 99. I'd like to go back a few years to November to Remember 95. And I looked down the card, and one match stood out to me, considering how much I've enjoyed seeing these two massive blokes fly around. I thought, how about a Psychosis versus Rey Mysterio from November to Remember 1995?
Is that the Mexican Death Match?
Yes.
I vaguely remember it being that.
Yeah, now I'm not sure I've ever seen this, Max. In fact, I'm leaning towards no. I don't think I have ever seen this. So if it is a stinker, I apologise. The reviews online seem to place it as being quite good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my sort of little dipping of the toe into ECW this week has whet my appetite. I'd like to stay in and then check out something else.
Yeah, I haven't watched this in such a long time, but I do remember that being a banger of a match.
Yeah, okay, brilliant stuff. Brilliant. I mean, people in the chat are actually saying, Magsy, Jericho versus Chyna, what a pick. Two fantastic choices, difficult choice this week. So yeah, that's great. It's great. I mean, they've got to make the choice, not us. So yeah, laughing.
Yes, see, we don't always watch crap wrestling. We do sometimes like to watch good wrestling.
There we go. So those are your options for this week's poll. That will be out later in the week after the audio version is with you. Probably by the weekend, if I remember. This week, I'm not going to lie, you'll probably notice it came out late because I just bloody forgot. I apologise. But your options are an Intercontinental Championship match from Survivor Series 1999 between Chris Jericho and China, which I think is going to be absolutely fascinating because there's so much to get into there. Or we have Psychosis versus Rey Mysterio Jr. from ECW November to Remember 1995. Make sure you vote in the poll, you retweet, all that good stuff. And that's something actually I wanted to mention as well about whole retweeting and sharing. Everyone does it, as far as I can tell, which is awesome. But this is what I really want to get to now. Tell your friends. Tell your friends. We want more people getting involved. We want more members of the CWF getting involved. We want more eyes on this show. We want more ears on the audio version. Get people involved because ultimately, the more people are involved, the more interactions we can have. And hopefully, the bigger the show grows, the better we can make it for you.
Yeah, we want to be like Nitro, where we're going to go 3 hours. And then we're going to have a show on Thursday.
We don't want to do that either. Magsy, is it worth you telling anyone where you are?
Yeah, I mean, I can even show it on my cup at Podfather Mags.
Show the shiny side as well.
Is that sad?
It's got the chain wrestling logo. It's got a chain that shines. Look at that.
Look at
God, my
quality.
wife's amazing, isn't she?
Yeah, so definitely contact Shaz for your merch there. Amazing quality. Follow me on Twitter at Podfather Mags. I have actually been dipping back into it this past week because I'm going to be taking part in the second Eurovision podcast from Morty and Fitch. I think this time it's about chocolate, so definitely keep your ears peeled for that. But other than that, you can find me sometimes on TikTok at MagsOpods. But yeah, I'm just enjoying my non-social media life.
You know you're going to get constant grief about bubbly chocolate when you go on that show, aren't you?
I'm prepared for it. I am prepared for it.
I'm glad. Build up your defenses early. You can follow me at SJP Words on Twitter, but I really would like everyone to go and follow the network at SJP World Media on Twitter and Facebook. There's a group there as well. I say it all the time, but it is true. So many great shows, so many great hosts, so many great podcasters. Just check it all out. I mean, Benny Mack with a couple of shows there in the corner, and the Nothingness show that comes out on a Sunday. Really interesting hearing him talk about all sorts of stuff, internet troubles and all sorts this past week with him discussing with his friend there. That's great stuff. We have RSH coming over from the States, basically informing us of their opinions of the current WWE product week by week from stateside, I guess. Their sort of American views on what we're watching as well. Check in at Power Palace with my wife and I. It's just us two sat down rambling about stuff. This week we answered some of your questions. I think we're looking at future episodes having a discussion about gigs we've been to together and how I end up drunk and embarrassing. And maybe we're going to have a conversation about the years we spent running an amateur football team. There's quite a bit to get into there that could be quite funny as well. So yeah, check that out as well. All of that, chain wrestling, Nitro Nights. There's an NXT podcast coming very soon. There's a new podcast coming from Scottish Danny and a good friend of ours, Tyler Peters, who are going to be looking back at all sorts of retro wrestling, films, TV programs, music. So much content there. Please go and check it all out at SJP World Media on Twitter and Facebook. But most importantly, you can follow this show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy at chain_wrestling. That's at chain_wrestling. Magsy, I have had an absolute blast, and we've just managed to clock it in at around 2 hours again, despite not getting on to wrestling until about an hour and 35 minutes into the show.
and only talking about wrestling for 10 minutes. I think we talk more about the wrestling than the actual match. But yeah, definitely go and check that match out. And as Sar says, you guys are amazing. We absolutely adore you. So definitely tell your friends. We want more members of the CWF because, yeah, you guys are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we don't tolerate fools, mind. Make sure you're aware of that.
Yeah,
Make
we
sure they
do.
know.
We incredibly tolerate fools. That's the
We're king
problem,
of
I think.
fools, fucking mate. Yeah. I am off now to go and check out a picture of Abe's Underworld and compare it to the little blue guy from the Eiffel 65 video, just to make sure I'm right about the colours of these little weird dudes. Magsy, I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
He's green.